Hello and welcome to Eco Girl in a Modern World. My name is Shelly and my channel is dedicated to talking about how to be environmentally friendly in a modern context. This week we're going to keep it super short, and I promise it'll be super short. The last couple videos have been some very heavy subjects, so they've been very long. Last time we talked about furniture, and whenever you talk about furniture you talk about PFAS chemicals, and so it becomes a very drawn out video. But this week we're going to keep it brief and we're going to talk about back to school. And back to school encompasses a lot of the previous videos, so I will be a reference of the other posts. But basically the way that you are eco-friendly, and especially this time of year, if you're watching this at the time the video posts, it's about mid-August, and I know within the next week or so a lot of kids are going back to school. If you go to college, it's definitely I noticed that when I walk a circuit around my neighborhood, and the path goes past a middle school and elementary school, and I do see it starts really early. It starts a good 6 to 8 weeks, kind of almost towards the middle of summer. All of the tryouts for sports and things like that, start to happen. So you really do start to feel that, back to school vibe right after the 4th of July. And what is it? There's a great line in the movie You've Got Mail where she talks about, she loves the fall and, bouquets of sharpened pencils and stuff. So we're there. Even though it's just it's hot as the blazes outside. You can see I just came back from the walk, so I'm kind of sweaty, but still hot, but, this time of year. So the way that we, as you go into the stores, you're going to be seeing a lot of back to school supplies, right? So the first thing that we talked about is if you have little ones, so we'll start with the younger grades. If you have kids that are in kindergarten or elementary school, the first thing you think about is like backpacks and school supplies, especially when the teachers are giving you a list of supplies. Now, to begin, I always believe that, things like backpacks, that's where, just like with fashion, I think if you stay away from the trends, if you get a good sturdy backpack that is like a solid color, or, if it is a pattern, don't have it be, the latest Marvel movie or the latest, Barbie, or, if you stay away from trends, but you keep it in the theme of what that child likes, like maybe flowers or, dinosaurs if they're a little kid, or, if you stay away from theme, then you can get a backpack and have it last longer, right? You can use it several years in a row. And there's nothing tacky about that. I know it gets a little taboo where people think, oh, well, you had this, there's this stigma where you always have to have brand new everything when you go back to school. And that's not necessarily true. You can let some of these objects last year after year, and it would be just as stylish and just as functional than buying this new, really crazy type of thing. The other thing is that, just like with your clothes, if you look for more sturdy materials that are natural fibers, so if you just like on a garment that you wear, there is a tag, and I always talk about on this channel about popping the tag, and what I mean is look at the tag, see what material that bag is made of, and if it's something like canvas, like cotton canvas or hemp, which is a very durable material, all of that would be it would be more on the eco-friendly side, where you can get a lot of wear out of it without having to throw it away or replace.
That school is over, and I'm sorry, my camera's buffering a little bit, so I hope you can hear me. But our goal is to definitely use it up, wear it out. Don't just replace it every year because you feel like you have to have trendy things. Now, of course, I also know that you probably have a list from your teachers, like the teachers might say, oh, okay, you need a composition book, and this many notebooks, this many, a calculator and so forth.
Understandable, all of that's needed, but a lot of times, things like, graphing calculators or things like that, you can find secondhand. The other thing is notebooks, just 3-ring binders. You can find that very easily at the thrift store. And maybe in my area, I have several thrift stores, and they're so good about this time of year, putting out almost like the regular retail stores. They're real good about knowing what the timing, like I've noticed that after, before the Barbie movie came out, they put a lot of pink inventory out. Now that we're getting close to Halloween, they're putting a lot of Halloween costumes out. And I did notice that the section for school supplies was very well stocked. And I actually found a few notebooks. I try not to, especially this time of year, I try not to buy too much because I'm not in college or school, so I don't want to take away from the kids that, need it. But there were 2 smaller binders, one pink one and one that had a heart on it, and they were $1.50. And they were practically new, guys. Very good condition, no rips, no tears, no scuffs. It like practically brand new. The other thing is that saves you a lot of money when you go buy secondhand. Buying secondhand is wonderful because first off, that notebook's already in existence. You're just giving it another life and saving it from going into the landfill. The other thing is that those inch and a half notebooks go for about $5, $6. Inflation is a thing. To get it for 1/4 of that price is a very good deal. And anywhere you can save on just your daily costs, perfect. And it doesn't look tacky. Honestly, the bright pink, if you're Barbiecore, I thought the 2 notebooks looked very trendy looked very modern. Where I don't think anybody would get ridiculed, or I don't think anyone would even know that you bought those, secondhand. The other thing is storage containers, just regular office storage. I found a few good deals at the thrift store. Sometimes at the antique mall. Antique mall is usually more, furniture and clothes, but sometimes you can find some stuff there. But thrift stores, definitely. Goodwill, A2 Thrift. And I'll actually post a video down below. I found a wonderful video that talked about how what to look for when you thrift to make it more productive. Because I know sometimes thrifting is like a treasure hunt. You don't always, when you go to a regular retail store, the chances of them having a multiple of all the notebooks you need right there in the front is there. But don't rule out your thrift stores. Go early, which we all are doing, and just search. And I promise you, in that video, there's several good tips that talk about what you can do. And we'll talk about that again in a minute. But but as far as drawer storage or holding pens and pencils, I did have to buy something new, and I wasn't real happy with it, having to buy new. I try not to do that unless I absolutely have to. But one thing that I liked about it is I got 3 kind of stackable drawers that were plastic, but the thing that I noticed is it did have a recycling triangle on it. It's number 5 plastic. And I know if you watch my video, it's not, we don't want to lean on plastic because, a good majority of plastics are not being recycled right now. Since 2016, China has stopped taking the recyclables from the United States. We are no longer, so in the United States, we are no longer shipping
our recyclables to other countries, and the number of actual recycling facilities is not sufficient for the amount of trash that we produce. And so a lot of times it does not get recycled. If you throw it in the recycling bin, it doesn't happen. But the nice thing is that when you do buy office materials, there's really trendy ones. Like if you go into these stores that cater to home decor, and you have a theme you have a theme to your office. Sometimes you'll see really, kind of, pen holders and things that are this really loud, iridescent acrylic, that's the type of plastic that's definitely probably not recyclable, especially if it's like acrylic. So to actually see the recycling triangle on something, that's
better than nothing, because if you did need to recycle it, at least you know that the entire container is of that type of plastic, a plastic that has a number on it. Anything else, it would probably be wish cycling when, if you ever did decide to part with it, again, on this channel, we encourage you selling. If you donate it to a thrift store, it's not, there's a chance it could still go into a landfill. It might not get resold. So, of course, when it gets to its end life, we want to try to recycle it or sell it again. But at least if it has a triangle on it, you can take a little bit more peace of mind of knowing that, that it could be recycled. Now, speaking of, storage containers, one thing that you do see on a lot of lists of materials that you'll need is pens and pencils. So, the eco side of pens and pencils is that, again, of course, you can also go to thrift stores to find storage containers like zipper pouches and, marker containers and things. So that's another thing, is that try not to buy this new non-recyclable plastic, when possible. You don't need a new container every single school year. But, also look at what you already have. You might already have some storage that can be repurposed or, upcycled to hold or to be used. I've seen that, sometimes makeup pouches can work very, very nicely, to hold, markers and pens. But I've noticed that, first off, when it comes to pencils, sometimes we get those cutesy pencils, the automatic pencils. And I remember growing up in the 80s, there was a pencil that it had this little short piece of plastic on it and a little point of lead. And what you would do is you would push the pencil lead in, and then it was like this little channel of little points. And once you used up all your points, you have this shaft of all these little pieces of plastic that just get thrown away. It wasn't ever recyclable. So it looks all fancy, but it's really not practical. And it's definitely just going to end up as trash. So if you need to use a pencil, just buy a pencil, buy a regular, lead pencil, and, try to, of course, they've got cute pencils that could have the, this one is a 2-in-1. This one actually uses as a paintbrush and a pencil. But, just do a regular pencil. And of course, you could get trendy with that, if it has your favorite cartoon character or Barbie or whatever on it, those type of pencils, just get a regular pencil. Don't get fancy with your lead. That just causes waste, right? The other thing is that when it comes to pens, do an inventory of the pens you have in your house. And I can tell you, and you can probably see behind me and in front of me, I got 10 million pens. What I like to do is I sometimes like to go through and just test all of them to see which ones are working, which ones aren't. And, honestly, you don't need to buy new packs of, pens if you already got 10 million of them in your house, I've honestly found that a few, I like the real twisty ones. Like, I remember I got this at like a hotel that I was going to, and it's like one of those twist ones. This is like one of the best pens I've ever used in my life. And when it runs out of ink, I'm going to be sad, because it's really a good pen, right? So just, go through and see what pens you already have. And then any of the dead pens, any of the pens that you don't need anymore, there's actually recycling programs that work really well. So that might be, kind of a proactive thing. You can kind of do a purge, you can comb through your pens and see which ones are working, which ones aren't. Any that aren't working, BIC does have a recycling program through TerraCycle. Also, TerraCycle does also have a pen bag. Like, you can pay for their bag, or I think it's a box too, and just put all your pens in it. And you could, sometimes TerraCycle gets a little expensive with their recycling programs, but if you have several people, if you're on a PTA, or, you're friends with your neighbor, or your neighbor's kids go to school with your kids, you could all go in, you could all, put money towards paying for the box, and because it's a big box or it's a big bag, and you can just all contribute your pens to it and send it back to TerraCycle, and they recycle it. So that's really nice. It's nice to know that these programs exist. I do also think Crayola has a recycling program for their markers, which is really good. One other type of art marker is COPIC. COPIC or alcohol art markers, and they're professional grade. And the beautiful thing about that is that you can replace on them. If you need, if a tip gets bad, pull it out and put a new one in, and it's just cotton tip, which is very low impact. The other thing is that you can refill the markers. You can there's several locations. I think you can do it at Michael's craft stores, and I also had a small independent store that was able to refill those markers. So that's great. Now those markers are a little bit more expensive. You have to buy them individually, or they come in certain packs. That I feel like that's a small price to pay, that the fact that you don't have to throw it away or try to figure out
how to recycle them later. It goes a long time for their end life. Now a few other things is, if you do have, of course, if you have older students in high school, if they need stuff like a graphing calculator, I've noticed that a lot of like graphing calculators, like Texas Instruments and things, those, I know almost like a lot of the technology they do, there's certain versions of the graphing calculator, but you can just like with college textbooks, how you can sell your books back and they can be resold to someone else. I would definitely look online, look at eBay, look at maybe even bookstores for colleges to see if they're reselling those calculators. Not only could you get it at a little bit of a better deal, but you're not, the moment that the course is over, you're not just discarding it or not using it, right? We just want to reuse and resell and, put it forward back into the loop. Another thing is sports equipment. I had mentioned that when I go walking around my neighborhood, there was a lot of tryouts going on. Sometimes you can see whether or not the uniforms can be, repurchased. I know sometimes you have letters and names on the jersey, but as far as shoulder pads, other things, and of course anything that can be kept sanitary and can be reused or sold. And especially if you have someone who's, in middle school, high school, and you're still growing, you might outgrow the equipment. There are stores like Play It Again Sports or things like that, where you can rent the shoulder pads, you can rent all of the, the shin guards and all, elbow pads, the things that you need. And if you outgrow it, or if you're no longer doing the sport after a couple years, you can just... The other thing is, you could be an advocate for cotton jerseys, right? I know a lot of jerseys are nylon, and we've talked a lot on this channel. Nylon and polyester, they don't breathe real well, even if it has that wicking action. You see with a few of these stores, they talk about, oh well, it wicks water away from you. It's still plastic. Polyester is horrible. It has a lot of toxics and chemicals in it, and all you're doing is, it's like a plastic bag. You sweat in it. And so if you could be an advocate and just again pop your tag, see what it's made of, and see if you have some purchasing choices. Sometimes you can go to different vendors to purchase your jersey, and you can see, okay, hey, do you have it in a natural fiber like organic cotton, linen, hemp, something like that? Because honestly, that would be a lot more breathable, and when you're playing sports, that would be a lot easier for you. The other thing is that when you're doing things like cheerleading and stuff, think about the makeup that you're going to be wearing. A lot of the glitter makeup, and we'll be talking about this again when we get closer to the holiday season, but a lot of that glitter makeup is actually very dangerous for your eyes, because it is microplastics. It's little particles of glitter. You probably can Google and see stories about people getting glitter in their eye and it causing infections or cutting their eye. Also, when you wash off your makeup, it gets into the system, and those are microplastics. Those are the same microplastics that shed when you wash synthetic fibers. So if it's all well and good to be in school spirit, but if your pom-poms have to be plastic, everything else has to be plastic. Think about more natural makeup ideas. You can still have your school colors without having it be so synthetic or so overdone. And there's several, when I get to the makeup video, there's
going to be several options. There's very natural based, type of brands out there that you can still do your makeup beautifully, and it, in school colors, and it would be, it would still, no one would know the difference, right? And you're still being environmental. Now, and then of course, same thing goes with, jerseys. If you're able to, purchase a uniform, or do more of a trade, either that, or after you use the uniform, if you clean it real good and then pass it on for someone else to use, that's the best way to go. Now, when it comes to college students and everything else, of course, you might be moving into your dormitory. We talked in the last video on furniture. If you do need to buy furniture, try to go into it with the expectation of keeping that furniture. Don't go into it expecting to just toss it all. It's good to stay away from themes so much. We've had, Mermaidcore, we've had Barbiecore,
A lot of influence going on. And the moment that you get into a theme and you buy everything that's the same theme, that might not stand the test of time. The other thing is you might be buying really cheap furniture that's not very durable, and the moment that it doesn't hold together, you're going to be throwing it in a dumpster, and that's fast furniture. That has just as a detrimental impact. And I'll put a few videos below, but there's a great video I'll put below that talked about, there's an interior designer that talks about stages of how to incorporate a trend, and he's particularly talking about Barbiecore, but you could really apply it to any theme that you really like. Of course, our goal is, and per my video about furniture, is you do want to avoid any stain guard or, any stain resistant or any waterproof type of materials. And again, you want to pop that tag. Usually it says right on the sales tag, because they promote it. They say, oh yeah, if you get a stain, it'll just roll right off. That has a lot of PFAS chemicals in it. PFAS chemicals are horrible for your skin. They are carcinogenic. They cause all sorts of problems internally, including endocrine. It causes endocrine problems. So if you're a woman, it affects your hormones, your estrogen. If you're a male, it affects your hormones, testosterone. Very, very bad, and it is a carcinogenic. The other thing is that it also, when you steam clean it or when you wash it or wipe it down, it does transfer to your skin and it gets into our water. And PFAS are forever chemicals. They go into our water, they don't come back out, and they are currently in the process of getting banned. So you might see more of that furniture on sale right now, because in 2 years, I think by 2025, it's going to be completely banned. So they're probably trying to sell whatever inventory they have yet left. So don't buy the toxic furniture. If it says stain guard or if it says waterproof, don't go for it. Same thing with clothing. If something says waterproof or stain guard or wrinkle resistant, oh, you don't have to iron this, it's probably full of both either PFAS chemicals or wrinkle resistant, has a lot of formaldehyde in it. So you don't want any of that against your skin. But particularly with furniture, pass on any of that. You might still see furniture that has polyester. I'm not a big fan of polyester, but when it comes to things like bedding, if you do organic cotton sheets, linen sheets, there's several companies that are, packed, PACT, organic cotton towels. There's actually really great providers that do wool pillows. That's another thing that's full of chemicals, is those memory foam mattresses. Those are horrible. Memory foam is not good. But you can get a pillow that's, cotton cover full of natural wool, and wool is naturally fire retardant, and it's a natural fiber. So that's really the way you want to go. The other thing is, if you watch my bedding video, I have a comforter, a duvet. So the inside of my comforter is all wool, and it's organic cotton outside. It is a little bit more expensive, but it's so nice because you can replace the cover. You can, once these trends change, you can change, the cover for another cotton duvet cover or linen duvet cover, and it the inside is the same. You don't have to cause waste with throwing away a comforter.
The other thing is try to use the furniture that you already have. You know, if you can take your, you know, your bed, you know, your twin bed to school, or you know, take your nightstand, you know, try to bring, you know, try to bring furniture that you know is going to stand the test of time, and that, you know, sturdy. And if you watch my furniture video, that was the last time I posted, you know, buying vintage, buying antique furniture, look at the furniture you already have. I have several pieces from my family, and be very careful about new furniture. If you do buy it new, buy it quality, because there is such a thing as off-gassing. You know, if you buy IKEA furniture, stuff like that, it's full of particle board, and particle board is just glued together wood flakes that use a lot of formaldehyde and a lot of other toxic chemicals that off-gas and poison, you know, affects your air quality. So don't go for cheap furniture. Long story short, don't go for cheap furniture. Go for quality stuff. And you know, worst case scenario, look at secondhand. You know, Facebook Marketplace. There's tons of great ways to, you know, and sometimes you can find some good free pieces or really inexpensive quality made pieces that you can take with you. Now the last thing is fashion. You know, of course, when we go back to school, one of the greatest and most exciting things is getting all the new clothes, right? Now, you know, right now it's still hot as the blazes out, so we're still wearing shorts and tank tops. You're probably going to be wearing more of your summer wardrobe the first couple weeks of school, but then when things start to snap and gets cooler, you're going to want your cute new, you know, fall clothes. As always, I always say buy secondhand. As another thing that you can do. You can go to your thrift store. If you don't have good thrift stores near you, check online. You know, online's not the greatest because it has to be mailed to you, and that causes carbon, and all the packaging, you know, that causes waste. But if you can bring your own bag and go to your local thrift store or antique mall, there's a lot of really gems. And again, check out the video down below that talks about how to thrift. That's fantastic. But when you do, you know, you can also check ThredUp or eBay now, or Mercari. Now, one thing that I always encourage is look at the materials, and especially if you're buying it online, ask the seller, what is it made of? They usually have a picture of the tag of the material content. You really, really want to go for natural fibers: cotton, linen, hemp, silk, and wool. Wool silk blends are very easy to launder. Those are not so bad. Just straight wool or cashmere is a little bit more delicate. It's harder to launder. It leaves fuzzies everywhere, so you do want to be careful with that. But I've noticed that silk and linen blends are wonderful, and wool and silk, especially if it's like 60% silk and maybe 40 or 30% wool. Oh, I have a sweater that looks so beautiful. I just, you know, gentle cycle, hang it up or lay it flat to dry. It's fantastic. And it breathes. It keeps me warm, but then still breathes. So, you know, look for that. Look for that. And the nice thing is, again, you can integrate all of these trends. If you're still in Barbiecore mode, you can find some things that look. The other thing is, look at the clothes you already have. Look at how you can transition your summer pieces over into your fall pieces. Because ideally, we just don't need any more clothes, right? If we buy the clothes that are already in existence. The other thing is, thrifting lets you get really creative with it. Again, I got bit by the Barbiecore bug, and I found some beautiful pieces. I found a pink gingham pullover button-up. I've worn that like 4 times, and I got it secondhand, and it's almost 100% cotton. It's the greatest shirt ever. And so as we go into school, just look at what's out there first, you know? Of course, things like shoes and, you know, underwear and things like that, of course, you know, do the same thing. Look to buy kind of natural fibers with all of that. And, you know, those you will need to buy new. But, you know, try to thrift or try to find something that's secondhand first. Because that really does, you know, believe it or not, it's so easy to do, and it saves you money, and I feel like it looks better than what's, you know, out in the market today. I go into these stores all the time, and I see stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute, I already got something better than that sitting in my closet, you know, that's a natural fiber that I bought for a fraction of the cost, and it looks fine, it looks beautiful, it almost looks better, you know, so I feel like, you know, that's the way you want to go. Of course, I feel like, the modern side of this channel is that I'm not saying that you should live in a wooden world. I've always said that. I'm not telling you to do everything eco, to the point where you're just, you're not in any of the modern conveniences. You are allowed to take up space. But what I'm discouraging is these big hauls where we buy all of this overseas stuff. We have it flown in, which causes so much carbon. It's created using polyester. Polyester is gas. It's using oil reserves we don't have, and it's polluting things. It doesn't biodegrade. All of that is negative impact. So, but if there's one new thing that makes you feel good, yes, buy the one new thing. But don't make it this huge haul where we just consume, consume, consume. Don't get a whole new bedroom set and then just say, oh, well, I'm over that trend, throw it away. Don't paint everything pink and then be like, oh, I've got canisters of paint, just throw it in the trash. That's where we poison our world with this stuff. Buying just one thing here and there new, that's okay. That's you taking up space. That's you, being human. But, doing this overproduction where we are just, we're consuming, and it's these really large masses of everything, that's what's polluting our world, and that's what causes imbalances. If you 95% of the time are buying secondhand, wearing what you own, conserving water, not creating a whole lot of plastic, you buying the one notebook or buying the one piece of jewelry that really is pretty and new is not the end of the world. It's all of these other habits that you've seen where we do hauls and we do whole themes and everything is plastic, everything is flown around the world. That's what's bad. And in closing, the final thing is, as we're going back to school, as we're joining these new teams and, participating in things, look for nature classes, look for science classes. I've noticed everyone I've ever talked to have some area of concern about the environment. If you're concerned about fast fashion, look to see if you have any groups at your school that are talking about that. If you're concerned about water quality, enroll in your chemistry or your biology, or environmental sciences. If you're in college, there's a lot, I'm really proud of how the world is starting to take notice. So seek out those groups, right? Also look at, seek out, there's such a thing as called a river keeper, someone who watches the rivers in each state. Seek out your river keeper, seek out your nature center, seek out nature groups. I just feel like there's so many endless possibilities out there. And even though I can speak for myself, even though I'm not in school,
I have non-credit classes that are held at my local community college that I can enroll in, that do nature walks, that look at water under a microscope, that talk about, PFAS and other things and what we're doing to get better. So while you go back to school, look for that and pursue that, because that's the change that makes the biggest difference. The moment that you pursue your interest about it, because it's not all gloom and doom. You do have a voice. You have an ability to make it better. And if you learn about it, and especially the area that you're curious about, that makes a world of difference. But I'm going to go ahead and end it there. I hope everyone has an exciting back to school. And, please feel free to, tag me or email me your fashions. What are you doing to be eco-friendly in your back to school habits? But I hope everyone is doing well, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.